Hi guys, and welcome to another Divi theme video. This is Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Well, we've got a little hover effect for you today. We've got 3 images up the top there, and in the left hand corner we've got a little red radio button type thing. When we hover over the radio button, it's going to expand out and reveal some text. That's a nice little feature, and you can put different amounts of text in there and it'll still remain the same height. Now we've got to use one tiny little line of CSS code for this today, but don't let that put you off. Any code I write I'll put down below, and it's extremely simple. Everything else we do today we're just doing with the inbuilt features of the Divi theme itself. So let's get started. I'm going to enable the visual builder so we can build on the front end. Alright, once enabled, let's go down. I'll add a row below this one, a little green button for a row. I'll put 3 columns in, as that's what I've got below and above. And for this today, I'm going to use a blurb module purely because it's got a title and some content. I'm not going to use the icon on the image, but this will actually work with pretty much any module you want. So let's pop a blurb in there. Obviously put your title in there. Put your content in there. Image and icon down below. Well, like I say, I'm not going to use one. If you want to use an icon, flip the switch to on. And they've just added Font Awesome to the list for Elegance theme, so there's hundreds and hundreds of icons there. You can do a search or filter it out, or you can break out and just see them all on a large pop out like that. But like I say, I'm not going to use any of that today. I'm just going to delete the image. I just want the title and the content. Okay, well, while we're in the content, I'm going to roll down to the background and I'll give it a red background, and it's going to look kind of crazy, but that's okay. There it is, just like that. Okay, well, let's go over to our design tab now. And I want to give it a bit of space all around so it's got a bit of breathing room there. And also that text, I'm just going to pop it into the middle. I'm not going to go and style the title and body text. As usual, you can style those however you want. Divi's got an awesome amount of fonts. It's got some crazy amounts of fonts for you to use. But I'm just going to leave mine on the default. Okay, well, let's move on down. I just want to give it a bit of spacing all around. So we're going to use padding for that. I'm going to go into spacing. And I'm going to say, let's give it 50 top and bottom and perhaps 30 left and right. Just put in the 50, it'll do the picks for you. Hit the chain, it'll do the opposite side. And we'll do the same for the left and right, but 30 we'll give it. Great, well, that's fine. That's kind of looking the shape and size that I want it. Now let's just say this, common to most text over image hover effects, when we build them we've got a module, and the module is sitting in a column that's in the row, and the image that we see when we hover, or when we're not hovering over it in this case, is sitting in the actual column itself. So let's put an image in the column. You won't be able to see much of it because we've got a module in front of it, but we'll adjust things in a moment. So let's go into our row. I'm going to go into column 1. We've got column 1, 2 and column 3 over here. We're working on number 1. I'm going to go down to the background, and here's where we're going to pop our image in. You've got color, gradient, image or video. So I'm going to select image, add a background image, and let's just pop that one in. Okay, and as you can see, or as you can't see, it is actually behind there, but of course our module's on top. Now here's where the coding bit comes in. I'm going to give this a fixed height, the column that is. I'm going to give a fixed height so that we can change the amounts of text that we've got in here, and this will still remain the same size, and I'll demonstrate that later on in the video. Okay, well, let's go over to our advanced. I'm going to go down to custom CSS. In the main element, I'm just going to give it a fixed height, so I'm going to write height colon 300. I think I used above, and as you can see there's a tiny bit of the image poking out down below there. That's fine, so let's put a semicolon on the end, and I'll copy this, put this down below, but it's as simple as that, height colon 300 pixels semicolon. Okay, well, we're good to go with our little row there. Let's start playing with our blurb module here and turn it into a little circle at the top there, and then make the hover effect happen. So we'll go back into the module. Okay, what I've got to do, I've got to shrink this all down in size so it's almost like a little square up here. And what that's going to do is going to make all this content spill out, and it's not going to look very good. So to avoid it spilling out of our column here, I'm going to go over to the Advanced tab. I'm going to go down to Visibility. And where it says Overflow here, I'm going to change both to Hidden. So when we shrink that module down and the text doesn't fit in it anymore, it's not going to overflow out and look crazy on the outside. Great. Now let's go to our design and make it the actual size we want it before we hover over it. So we can do that by going down to Sizing. And in the width, I'm simply going to put, let's try 20 pixels. Just put in the 20, and again, it's put in a percentage there. I want pixels. So I'm going to back up and put px for pixels in there. There we go. So we should have it 20 wide. I'll have to take that padding away in a moment. And I want similar for the height. So let's make it 20 in height. And this time it did put pix in, that's fine. Okay, the reason it's not 20 and 20, which would be about this size, is because of the padding that we've got around our text. So while we're in the Design tab, we can go down below our sizing, and there it is right there, into the spacing. And here's what we put in. And when we're not hovering over it, we actually want no padding at all anywhere. And then when we hover over it, we want it to be 50, 50, 30, 30. So let's do that. Common to most Divi modules, if you hover over the dark writing, you'll see some icons appear. Go to the one that you want to affect. If there's an arrow there, it'll allow you to set a desktop state when your mouse is not on it, and a hover state, obviously, when your mouse is on it. So desktop, when the mouse is not on it, I don't want any padding at all. So I can simply put in a 0 there, and it's done both. Great. I want to do the same for the left and right. Now we have a little square, and if we've got a square, we can turn it into a perfect circle, which is great. Okay, but then when we hover back over it, I want to put that padding back in. So let's hit the hover state, and it's 50 top and bottom, and 30 left and right. And it looks crazy now. You'll figure out what's going on in a moment when I make it the right size. Okay, so there's desktop mode. Great. Well, I want a little circle rather than a square. And I also want to give it a little space on the left and the top, so it's not butted up against that top corner there. So I'm going to do that with padding. And again, I'm going to bring up the hover state. I was going to do it with margin rather than padding. And again, I'm going to bring up the hover state here. So on the top, let's give it perhaps 5 pix. Don't need any on the bottom. There we go. Let's push it down 5 pix from the top. And I'll give it 5 on the left as well, just to bring it out from the side. Great. But when we hover over it, I don't want any padding at all. I want it to be corner to corner. So again, I'm going to put a 0 in there and a 0 in there. There we go. Great. So now I need to make that into a little circle so it looks more like a radio button. We can do that with border. So if we roll down a little bit more, that's the next one in line. And you see rounded corners here. If you've got that chain highlighted, you can do all 4 at once. And I'm simply going to give it 50%. 50%. And as you can see, that's a perfect circle there. But when we hover over it and it grows to fill our column here, I don't want any rounded corners. So again, hover over, get up the hover state, desktop 50%, perfect. Hover state 0. I want that to be a square. Perfect. Okay, desktop state is almost as we want it, but I don't want to see any text in there. That's the first letter of our title right there we're looking at. So let's just close that border. We'll zoom up a bit to title text. And what I'm going to do is make it invisible until we hover over it. So here's our title text. Here's the text color. Again, I'm going to hover over, bring up desktop state. I don't want to see it at all on desktop, so let's make it transparent. There we go, it's gone. Then when we hover over it, I want it to be back in black. I think there's a song by that name. Okay, that's fine. But now when we hover over it, we need to set that hover state, because desktop state is now pretty much how we want it. I'm just going to add a 1 pix black border around there. fact, let's do that right now. And I want the border to be there all the time, so I've gone down, still on the design tab, to border, and I'm going to give it 1 pixel. I'm going to make it black, and I want that both on the hover state and the regular state, so we don't need to bring up the hover there. Great. Right then, let's make this how we want it when we hover over it. So design wise, the first thing I need to do is make it the size that I want it. So design tab, let's go back down to sizing. And again, we need to roll over where it says width there, bring up the little hover state. So when we're not hovering over it, it's 20 pixels wide. When we are hovering over it, I want it to become 100% of the available width, which is the full width of that column there. So I'm going to type 100% in there. As you can see, that's grown to 100% of the size. Let's copy that, Control C, and I'm going to do exactly the same for the height. Again, roll over. Make sure you do this, because if you don't, it won't render correctly. So the hover state, I want that to be 100% also. And there we are, we've got our full image, or full blurb I should say there. And not sure about that red background, I want that to be white and perhaps a little transparent when we hover over it. So let's go to our content, down to our background. There's our red background. Initially that's fine, so what we want to do is roll over, hit the little arrow, then for the hover state, I'm going to make this background white. And I think I'll click on the field here, take this right hand slider, the opacity down a little bit, so you get a little hint of the image behind, but you can still read that text really nicely. Something like that. So we should be pretty good to go there. I might take that body text to a fuller black, make it stand out a bit better. So let's go to design. There's the body text. And remember, it's just on the hover state, body text color. When we hover over it, it wants to be black. There, that's a bit more contrasting there. Fantastic. Now the only other thing I want to do is the time it takes to go from the little red dot to our full blurb image by default with Divi theme is 300 milliseconds, which to me is pretty quick. It may work for you, in which case just leave it as it is. But I like to slow it down for a little bit of drama. So to do that, let's go over to the Advanced tab. I'm going to go down to Transitions, Transition Duration. There's the default 300. I'm going to pretty much double that, something about 6 or something like that. Obviously you make yours just exactly how you want. I don't want any delay. I want it to start happening as soon as they put their little mouse over it. Speed curve I like to use for my hover effects is ease in, ease out. This one here. They're all fairly similar, but some will work better in certain situations than others, so do check them out, but this is pretty much my go-to for hover effects. Alright, well if we've done everything correctly now, this should now work. Save the page changes. Exit the Visual Builder. And there we are, there's our little image with the little radio button in it. When we hover over the button, it's going to pop out into that little text right there. And just to demonstrate how easy it is to duplicate this once you've done the first one, I'll just duplicate one and we'll change the amount of text in there to show you that the size won't change. So let's quickly enable the Visual Builder again. And as we've changed the positioning of this one's actually alright, but sometimes when you do that you can have a hard time getting to the module, like this one up here. If you do have a hard time getting to your module, just hit the little purple button, go to wireframe mode, back end mode, and there it is right there. There's the row, there's a little blurb in there. Okay, and duplicating it couldn't be easier. You can do this on the front or the back, it's entirely up to you. Let's go back to our regular one. I'm going to duplicate this, so it's a little 2 squares to duplicate it right there. Left click. I've got 2 of them now, so I can drag one of them across to where I want to put it. Let's put it over here in column 3. Now, you may have noticed all we've got there is a dot. It's because that's all there is of the module itself. So to make an image appear, we need to put it in our column. So let's go into our column. Go into the row, little blue tab. We're working on column 3 here. We need to give it the image that we want in the back there. So let's add the image. and we've only got a little bit there. So what we need to do is make sure that any column we put this in has got that little bit of CSS code in it. To do that, let's just save our little column. We'll go back to the first column, Advanced, Custom CSS. There's our bit of code we wrote. Let's copy that. Save that, go back to the main column, number 3, Advanced, over to the Custom CSS, and again, we'll just paste that into the main element. And there we go. Of course, you're going to want to change your text inside, or presumably you will. So to go in, do that, just go back into your module, change the title to whatever you want your new title to be. And let's change the amount of text here just to demonstrate that it'll stay the same shape. Let's take this away. Now we'll save all this and we should have another one complete. Exit the Visual Builder. And if we go on down, of course, here's our first one. And let's check out our second one with a different amount of text in there. And as you can see, it's exactly the same. And that's a nice little feature to have on your site. So there you go, guys. There's how to create text over image, radio button to text drop down. I hope you've enjoyed this today and found it useful. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, ring the bell, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Once again, this has been Jamie with System 22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.